This is a tasty burger.
I'll have what she's having.
Alright everyone, welcome to another episode of D.A.M Fine Meats. Today in celebration of John Leguizamo's The Pest, we're doing the Pestarian. Ingredients for the Pestarian, you're going to need some type of fish. We're choosing here to do a tilapia, which we have here coated in tortilla and some tomatoes, a little bit of lime. And then for the topping, we're going to make a nice pico de gallo, so you're going to need some lime, Roma tomatoes, red onion. For seasonings in there, we're going to go kosher salt, ground black pepper, garlic powder, cilantro. Because I like a little kick of heat, we're going to go with some red chili flakes. Also, we're not going to do a bun. We're instead going to go tostada. So what we're going to do here is you're going to need two tortillas, some type of cutter in order to get a uniform size to your tortilla to put your fish on. And because I like the buttery, flaky kind of taste of a nice fried fish in butter as opposed to oil, we're just going to go straight butter. So, set your tortillas and everything off to the side. Those will be a last-minute frying pan hit. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this pico de gallo. You're going to need one metal bowl in order to hold all your ingredients together. And we're just going to dice up these Roma tomatoes. Your pico de gallo, for the most part, is going to be however you want it. So you can do chunks as big or as large as you want. We're going to go about a quarter of a tomato in terms of thickness per cut, and then we're just going to do the same thing going across the other side. In order to save your fingers there, just after you quarter cut it, take the middle, use the flat side. Honestly, if you're just doing one sandwich like we're doing here, one tomato's probably going to be enough. You're probably going to have a little bit left over. In terms of the onion, you'll probably use maybe about a quarter of it, maybe an eighth of it, depending on how large it is. But that's for one sandwich. If you're a fan of pico de gallo the way I am, you just keep the stuff in the house anyway. Let it sit. It'll be good for a couple weeks or so due to the acid from the lime juice. Alright, so now all that tomato's in there, we're just going to peel our onion. You want to remove one side of the onions. The easiest way to do this, take that flat side, work your fingers underneath that first layer. Now, yet again, this depends on how much onion you like, but red onion is the best onion for this. You could choose any other type of onion, but red gives you that nice color contrast. Also, tends not to be as bitter as yellow onions or anything like that. So you're just going to want to run your knife lengthwise through it. And churn it there, then run it back and forth just like that. What we're going to do is we're just going to take our onion here, add it right to the bowl. If your eyes start tearing up, you could prevent that. You could put a little oil on your knife, or what you could do is you can run the onion under some cold water, because the enzyme is water soluble and will dissolve out. So, go ahead, put those two right in there. What we're going to do now is we're just going to add our seasoning. So, salt, pepper, garlic powder, cilantro, red pepper flake. In order to get the exact numbers on that, you could check the link in, you could check the description down below, which has the exact number. Then we need the juice of 1 lime. The best way to get the juice is to roll it across your cutting board. And what you're doing there is you're breaking down some cell walls. You're breaking down some of the connective tissue that holds the juice right there. Just roll it back and forth. Be firm with it. Then you're going to cut it in half straight through the center. Put it at the end of your fingers and go ahead and give it a squeeze. You're going to get some juice that comes out. You could dig your fingers into the meat itself. The big thing with your fingers, though, is you definitely want to make sure that they're always right there. Or else what ends up happening is you get seeds in your pico de gallo, and you definitely don't want to be biting into seeds. Now you could, at this point, add a little bit of oil, but I like a fresh type taste. So what we're going to do is we're just going to let that squeeze there. You could take your spatula, or if you just happen to run it just like that, you just give it a quick toss. Incorporate all those ingredients together. And what you want to do is you just want to cover this in some plastic wrap and let this sit for at least half an hour in your refrigerator to let all those flavors combine. So we're just going to step off and wrap this in plastic, put this in the fridge, and we'll come back in about an hour with the next part of the video. Come back. Instead of adding oil this time, what we're going to do is we're going to add butter. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to heat up these tortillas because we want them crispy. Almost tostada-like is how we're going to do this as opposed to a bun. So go ahead and add a good helping of butter to the bottom of this pan, because you're going to need to coat the entire bottom of the pan, and we're also going to do a shallow pan fry. So you're going to need good slathering of butter. While that's going on, we're just going to let that melt. A couple ingredients to grab separately for this tortilla here, for the tostada, is you're just going to want to grab a small amount of salt, because when this all heats up and after you pan fry it on the flip, we're going to sprinkle a little bit of salt on top to make it more restaurant quality tortilla. If you have any of that lime left over, any of the lime juice, if you want to go ahead and give that a little squeeze as well to bring out some aromatics, you can definitely do that. So we're just going to let this go. Alright guys, so you can see the bottom of the pan has a good bit of butter here. We're just going to go ahead and incorporate that all the way through. You can tell the butter is good to go because it'll start to separate out the actual milk fats from the oils, the animal fats. We're just going to wait a couple seconds. You'll see some bubbles forming up along the top, particularly here, right through the middle of your pan. And we're just going to drop this in. Now, depending on how confident you are in your abilities, you could do what I do and actually press your hand up across the top. Just make sure that you don't touch that pan, because that pan is pretty hot right now. The reason I'm doing this is just to make sure that your edges don't curl up. Inherently, the tortillas will want to curl slightly because of the heat being applied to it. So you can either do this, you can let them curl. Honestly, it's up to you. If you have maybe another hard pan to put inside that's roughly the same, maybe a little bit smaller in terms of diameter, you can go ahead and press those, put that on top and press that in. But what you want to do, you want to make sure that this bottom is getting good and crisp. As you can see, it's raising up in the center, so every time I press down, you get a puff of steam. So we got some heat going there. Also, you can just take a spatula, do roughly the same thing I'm doing with my hand here. If you want to go that route, if you don't have a pan, or you don't necessarily trust your hand to not get burned up in there, just sitting on top. We're using here a pretty standard tortilla that you can get from any grocery store. If you happen to live in an area that makes better tortillas, talking to you, New York, LA, Miami, try to go a little bit thinner one. Those will produce a crispier tortilla overall. And honestly, you can go sandwich style with 2 tortillas, which was our original plan here. But kind of thinking about it, you can also just go one open face, kind of a Mexican restaurant tostada-esque type serving thing. So we may end up actually doing that as opposed to a sandwich. Who knows? We'll see how it looks at the end of the day. It's your burger, it's your meat, however you feel like eating it. Alright, so now that this is heated up on one side, you see you got some brown going on there. We're just going to go ahead and flip this, do the same thing to this side. This second side actually should take less amount of time to cook because it's already started partially cooking all the way through the bottom. Like I said, now that we've flipped this side, what we're going to do is we're just going to hit this with a little bit of salt. You can go with cilantro, any of the other spices that you decide to add to this. You can go garlic, you can go cilantro, you can go lime if you happen to have a little bit extra lime juice left over. Or if you got a whole lime kind of sitting there from the first one. So, technical difficulties. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we're going to pull this off. We're going to set this off to the side and let that kind of cool down some. You can see, maybe you can see, some of the salt crystals there. Go ahead and formulate up on top as it's kind of drying out. And we're just going to add another big pat of butter directly to the pan. Go ahead and mix that around some. Go ahead and get that heating up everywhere so this fish doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. Set that there. Let that melt out. Make sure that our pan is good and hot before we add this. Alright, so now that this new pat of butter is melted away, you can see we're getting separation again. You're getting some amount of kind of boiling right up here along the top layer. So we're just going to bring our fish over here. And we're just going to put this into the pan when it gets hot enough for me kind of not being able to set my hand here. As I've said before, or if you're doing cast iron like I am, you can check up here. If it's too hot up here for you to be able to hold it for a second there, then your pan is getting hot. We're just going to drop that in there. We're going to let that cook. Fish in particular, what we're looking for, since we went with the butter, so you want a dark kind of crackle along the outside. You still want the inside of your fish, though, to be moist, kind of flaky. This isn't going to take long. Tilapia in particular tends to be a thinner type fish. It's not like we're cooking tuna, anything like that. With that being said, you want to make sure to cook this all the way through. Just because it is kind of a thinner fish, everything like that. Also, tilapia is a really good fish to use for applications like this, especially if you're not well versed in the kitchen, because it's a hardier type fish that can stand up to a little bit more cooking than most other types of fishes. If you do like a big tuna steak, you cook it all the way through, you might as well not even eat it. Unless that's your thing. Unless your thing is eating well done tuna. Who knows? That doesn't sound appealing to me, though. So what we're going to do is we're just going to let this sit. This is going to sit for about, realistically, about 3 minutes. Which is why I'm stalling for time talking to you guys. It's just going to cook. You can smell some of the lime and stuff that's in this crust here. While this is cooking, though, you're just going to want to remove your pico de gallo from the fridge. And then when we come back, we'll do assemblage and that final money shot at the end on that rotating platform. Come on back. Okay, guys, so we're back here. We've been going for about 3 minutes here. We're just going to go ahead and lift this off. Just like usual, we're going to set this first side down. A little bit of char there from the butter. It's real great. We're going to set this off on a non-heated element here. While that's kind of cooling down, what we're going to do is we're going to pull in a new plate. We're going to start assemblage. That's just off screen because that's movie magic. So this is, we're going to go inside here. Then we're going to, honestly, you could cut this in half if you'd like. But I like the idea of just one big piece of fish right in there. We're going to hit go in. Get some nice colors there. From here, if you'd like, you can add a few more things, depending on how big you are into the whole tostada thing. You can add a little fresh crema, which is different from cream or sour cream. That you'll find, I believe they refer to it as the ethnic section of the grocery store. If you, depending on where you are, you might be able to find queso blanco, which is a crumbly white cheese that tends to go with Latin-inspired dishes. Our damn fine meat for today, which is the Pestarian for John Leguizamo's The Pest. Then have yourself some damn fine meats.